Is Senator Wright. Senator Reynolds.
Thank you very much, Madam Acting Deputy President. I rise tonight to address the issue of gender in the Liberal Party, and it seems quite apt after Senator Moore's wonderful tribute to Joan Kirner. I'm a very proud WA Liberal woman. When I look around my party, I see an astonishing number of talented and inspirational women who are quite simply the engine room of our party. All our women are pre-selected and elected on merit, but the simple fact is we do not yet have enough women in leadership and parliamentary roles. Today, over 7 out of 10 elected Liberal representatives across Australian parliaments are men. Over 7 out of 10 today. I cannot but help wonder, if we truly are a meritocracy, how this can possibly be. I'm neither a gender warrior nor an advocate of quotas, and I do not identify as a feminist, or at least what to me feminism appears to have morphed into today. The sisterhood's battle cry, I believe, remains stuck in the past, a narrow and often angry left-wing narrative, one of victimhood, and one that often demands women receive special treatment simply because we are women. This is not an approach I have ever identified with, and I've come to believe does more harm today than good. I agree with Dame Elizabeth Couchman, one of the founders of the Liberal Party, who said her concerns were not for the battlesome female who talks of sex war, but for the women who put public good before personal ambition. Gender is not a women's issue. It is an economic and social issue for all of us. The GDP foregone every year as a result of gender economic inequality is estimated at 20%. This represents an annual loss to our economy of over $300 billion every year. $300 billion. Madam Acting Deputy President, I believe it's time to rethink our approach and our narrative on gender, both as a nation and as a party. But to do that, we first have to unshackle ourselves from the old narratives of the past to ones based on empowerment, based on strength and based on equality. My favourite Dame Elizabeth quote is that not all wisdom resides under the hats of men. Not all wisdom resides under the hats of men, and she said that over 80 years ago, and I believe it is just as true today as it was then. I believe our starting point when looking to the future must be the belief that, while women quite often do it differently from men, we do it just as well and in many cases better, and we do it because we are women, not in spite of the fact we are women. There is no doubt that women in Australia have made great strides in the past few decades, and internationally Australia ranks comparatively well against many socio-economic indicators. But despite this, there are many areas in which Australian women still face significant and entrenched difficulties and challenges. Today, women are still much more likely to be economically disadvantaged, earn less than their male counterparts, have significantly less retirement income and security, and be subjected to the most heinous and higher levels of abuse and even murder. I was particularly disappointed to learn in my home state of Western Australia the gender pay gap is the worst in the nation, today sitting at 25.3%. This is particularly disappointing given that in 1969 there was a legislated pay gap for women of 25%. We haven't moved much since then. Today, women comprise nearly 60% of Australian university graduates, but only 52% graduate into professional positions, many starting off their careers in professions earning less than their male counterparts in the same job. The leadership and pay gaps both increase as their careers progress, with today only 10% of women reaching executive management and only 3.5% becoming CEOs. Today, of 400 CEOs and chairs of ASX 200 companies, 6.5% are men with the first name Peter, while only 5.75% are held by women. Think of the implications of that for young women today. Men named Peter have a greater chance of promotion to CEO and chair positions in our top companies than they do as young professional women. To quote the previous Chief of Army, my former boss and mentor, David Morrison, He said this: "I'm no sociologist, I have no anthropological training, but I'm certain of this. We live in a world where the squandering of women's talent, the traducing of their potential, is a global disgrace." Across all parliaments today in Australia, women represent 31.8% of all elected representatives. This is a figure which has pretty much flatlined over the past decade, lingering around the 30% figure regarded by the United Nations as the bare minimum necessary for women to influence decision-making. And today, only 20% across the nation are ministers. In 1995, 11% of international parliamentarians were women, and 22 years later it is now 22%, a doubling, albeit from a relatively low base. Over the past 20 years in Australia, female representation has increased from 20.7% in 1996 to that 31.8% today. As a consequence of this slow increase, Australia's international ranking for women in Parliament continues to decline when compared to 190 other countries. Australia has fallen from 20th in 2001 to 45th today. Female representation across all parliaments by political party is this: ALP 43.1%, the Greens 55%, and the Liberal Party sits at just 22.6%. Our party's lack of progress, in fact, has been the most significant contributor to our nation's decline in international rankings. Internationally, 22.6% would place the Liberal Party in rankings somewhere between Kyrgyzstan and Eritrea. In 1902, the Commonwealth of Australia was one of the first national governments to grant women the right to vote and allow them to nominate as federal candidates. Despite this promising start, since Federation, only 11% of the 1,656 members and senators have been women, 100 in the House of Representatives and 91 in the Senate. Through the 1950s and 60s, while more women were nominated for pre-selection, the prevailing belief remained in major political parties that women would not poll well and were not suited to the rigours of politics. As Dame Elizabeth again observed at the time, what women think today in politics, men will think tomorrow. And I'm sure she would have said they would have thought the good idea was there in the first place. But her good friend and colleague, Sir Robert Menzies, shared her point of view and her passion for women in politics. His vision for women in politics was clearly laid out in a 1943 national broadcast specifically on women for Canberra. He said this: "We have travelled a long way in our civic outlook on women, and even if we were reluctant and straggling wayfarers, the event of this war, in which women have been such workers and warriors, will surely have speeded up this journey." He concluded the speech with, "We should shake our minds clear of whatever prejudice may linger in them and honestly and sincerely acknowledge that there is just as much room in all of our public bodies for public-spirited and intelligent women as there is for public-spirited and intelligent men." Sadly, Sir Robert's foresight is yet to be fully realised in our national parliaments. I think the facts are very clear. Without a proactive and positive approach to women's socio-economic outcomes, women in Australia will continue to lag behind men. If politics was a battlefield of ideas, then I believe Dame Elizabeth was a general. Sir Robert said she would have been the best cabinet minister I could ever have wished for, and that she was the greatest statesman of them all of her time. I know she would have been proud of the contribution women make to the Liberal Party today, but I suspect she may be a little disappointed with our rate of progress today. But one thing I know for sure is that she would never have given up advocating and fighting for women everywhere. The 70th anniversary of the Liberal Party this year is a wonderful opportunity to discuss this issue honestly and openly, to find a new narrative and a new approach, one based on participation, optimism and equality. Women have so much to offer and contribute as women. The challenge today for us is how to fully realise this potential, so women have the opportunity to do better than Peters in our society. As the US General Gordon Sullivan said, hope is not a method. Well, hope may not be a method, but it is our most powerful motivator and a strong catalyst for change. Thank you, Madam Acting Deputy President.
Thank you, Senator Reynolds. The Senate now stands adjourned and will meet again tomorrow at 12:30 p.m.